What's up, guys? It's Bojie He here, your local Bay Area real estate expert. So, the other day, I stumbled upon a YouTube video from Graham Stephan, and the topic is the age-old debate of should you rent or should you buy? In case you don't know who Graham Stephan is, he's one of the biggest real estate and investment YouTuber. His channel's got 4.7 million subscribers, much bigger than mine, of course. But in his video, he was breaking down some numbers and was making you to think that in today's high price, high rate, and renting might just be a better option than buying. Well, his viewpoint obviously is very different from what most of us were taught traditionally. And gurus like Dave Ramsey would say that homeownership is the best investments because it builds equity. It's stable, it's secure, it's got tax benefits and great long-term investments, which is all right, especially for those that have bought their homes long time ago and long time ago's price. But with today's high price, high interest rate, if you're facing a decision about buying versus renting, do numbers still work the same way? That's what I want to talk about in today's video. I'm going to tell you what I think Graham was right about and what he's missing by breaking down the numbers for you, especially using the typical numbers that only exist in our Bay Area real estate market so that you can decide what's best for you. Okay, before I start, full disclosure, I am a real estate agent and I make a living helping real estate buyers and sellers. However, that doesn't make me automatically side with buying. I believe people should do what's best for them, and everybody's got their own considerations, which is not up to me. My job isn't to convince you to do anything. My job is simply showing you all the things you need in order for you to make your own decisions. With that, let me first share with you that I agree with the way Graham Stephan breaks down the cost of home ownership in his video. By the way, check out his video, link is in the description, and basically that's how he breaks it down. If you're looking to buy a home, you're going to have down payments, you're going to have mortgage interest payments, plus PMI, your property tax, your insurance, and home maintenance. And in his video, he uses national's average number. But what I'm going to do is to show you what the number will look like here in the Bay Area and then compare with the result of renting and investing the difference. All right, I'm going to get through this quickly. So here's what we're looking at. We're buying a home in the Bay Area for $1.5 million, which is the average single family home price here. Loan amount $1.2 million for the 20% down with no PMI. Down payment $300K and 3-year fixed jumbo at 7. Property tax at 1.2% and insurance and maintenance at $2,000 a month. Your total expenses will be the $300K one-time down payment plus your mortgage, monthly mortgage will be $7,984, or we'll round it off to $8,000 a month. So your property tax is $18,000 a year or $1,500 a month, and your insurance and maintenance would be $2,000 a month. So your total monthly payment is $11,500. And if you keep it for 10 years, you have already put in as total expenses $300K one-time down payment plus the $1.38 million, which is your monthly times 10 years or 120 months. That is $1.68 million total investment in the 10-year holding of your home, and that's cash. So if I were to rent this $1.5 million home instead, I don't have to worry about none of these expenses. And my only payment is going to be $4,500 a month rent. And this rent, you might get a better deal or whatnot, but this is a pretty good estimate for living a pretty comfortable rental life in the Bay Area, which is $4,500 a month. And your total monthly, it's going to be $7,000 a month in savings. That's a lot of money that you've saved if you don't buy that house. And let's say, look at these two accounts. One account is buy just like we've shown before, and the other one is rent and invest the difference. So in both accounts, we have $1.68 million to start. And if you're buying, you're totally investing the whole thing into buying and keeping that home for 10 years. On the rent side, you still have to rent somewhere, so you will have to set aside $540,000, which is $4,500 times 10 years. So you can only invest a difference of $1.14 million. Let's play these two scenarios by assuming that number one, your home will appreciate at 4% every year in the next 10 years. I know this is a wild assumption, but let's just go with that for now. And Bay Area real estate is really been proven pretty resilient, but still, it's an assumption. And let's say at 4%, your home value will grow to be $2.2 million, $20,360 in 10 years. So, and your mortgage will still be $1 million, $26,915. This is because, just like Graham was saying in his video, the first 10 years of your mortgage payment is mostly you paying towards the interest. You really haven't built up too much equities, which I agree. So in this case, you've been paying your mortgage for 10 years and you have only built not even $200,000 extra equity, but it is what it is. So let's say you sell your home for $2.2 million in 10 years. So the sale price is 2.2, 20,360. And you have to give $1.02 million back to the bank. And your selling cost, meaning your agent commission and closing cost, is $130K. Your net is $1.06 million. That's a lot less than the $1.68 million that you have totally put into this house. But you may say, hey, wait, I didn't have to pay rent during this 10 years. Otherwise, I would have had to pay the $540,000 rent. That's a saving. So I should add that into the equation. Fine. If you want to do that, then the result would be your net return will be $1.603,445. And you barely break even. Not even. You're still at a loss, actually. So let's look at what if I rent and invest the difference. So let's say we're going to go with S&P 500. This is what Graham was also mentioning in his video, that he's confident about S&P 500 and another index strategy accounts. So let's say we're doing $300,000 one time and $7,000 monthly, because that's the difference that we're going to invest, and assume 7% growth every year. Again, this is an assumption, but this is also what Graham was saying in his video. He's confident that this is the kind of return that you can get from these type of index account. So let's go with 7%. So how much would my account be in 10 years? Well, it turns out that it's going to be $1,787,507.53. That's not bad at all. And let's put these two scenarios together side by side and look at the comparisons. On one side, you have renting and investing the difference in S&P 500 and versus buying with 20% down. Now, your total expenses is the same in both cases, and you're investing the difference of 1.14 million versus you're investing the total. And on the stock side, your total future value is grown to be $1.7 million, and you have $647,000 taxable gain at 3%. And on the real estate side, your home value is grown to be $2.2 million, and your total gain is $540,000. But you have a Section 121 exclusion of $500,000 amount. So it's safe to say that you're fine with capital gain on the buy side. And your total account would be, if you were to cash out your stocks, will be $1.78 million subtract with $194,000 tax. It will be $1.593 million. And on the sell side, if you sell your house at a 10-year mark, then, the home price minus the mortgage minus the closing costs, you walk away with $1,063,445. So in this case, the clear winner is the buying and renting and investing the difference. And the problem that I see is on both sides. So like on the rent side, because the rent is so expensive, you're paying $540,000 rent in 10 years. The difference is that you invest in stocks, it's making you money and it's making you enough money to barely cover all your rental expenses in those 10 years. Not quite, but it's close enough. That's why you don't see a total growth of your return. It's still under your initial expenses of 1.68 million. And on the buy side, the biggest problem is the mortgage interest rate. The total investment of $1.68 million, most of it goes towards paying for the mortgage interest rate because your mortgage is $8,000 and you got to pay that for 120 months. That's the bulk of your investments. That's not giving you any return on equity. It's pure expenses. Plus with some tax write-off benefit, of course. But with that, the account is way below the initial expenses of 1.68 million. So if you're selling your home at the 10-year mark, then you're at a loss. So unless you have to sell, it's got to move or got laid off or divorced or whatever situation you got to sell, most of the people are probably not going to sell. Just let the equity keep growing. But this, comes to my mind that, Bay Area is such a different market. We have a lot of people with a lot of cash, and the market is still very hot. And in fact, most of the buyers know that the interest rate is very high, money is not cheap. So most buyers are buying with a higher down payments. I've seen 50% down, 70% down, or even cash buyers. There's a lot of cash buyers in the Bay Area. So with such a special market, I think it's worth the time to do a second scenario of comparing buying with cash versus renting and investing the difference. So let's see if the result comes out to be different. So let's say you're buying the $1.5 million cash and your mortgage is zero and your property tax and insurance maintenance are still the same, totally $3,500 a month, and your 10-year total investment is $1.92 million. And with that scenario, the side-to-side comparison looks like this. So on the renting side and the buying with cash, your initial expenses will be $1.92 million on each side. And you're still renting $4,500 a month and investing the difference. So the difference in this case is 1.38 million. And your total investment on the buy side is the same. And your total future value of your stock, if you're investing $1.38 million at one time, at a 7% growth is $2.7 million, $14,668. That's really good. And your real estate, let's say, you're still growing at a 4%. So your home value is 2.2. That's the same. And your total gain on the stock side is $1.33 million. But with, again, these are all at 30% taxable liability. And your total capital gain on the real estate side is, again, $300,000. No tax to be worried about. And if you were to cash out your stock at this time, your total account will look like this: $2.7 million minus the $400 tax. It's going to come out to be $2.3 million, $14,268. And if you're selling your real estate, the only expense you have is your selling costs, agent commission and closing costs. You don't have no mortgage to worry about. Then you're going to end up with $2.09 million. So the stock side is still a winner, no doubt, but the gap is a lot less. You can see, like, on the real estate side, they're catching up. And keep in mind that if you want additional incomes, if you have real estate, you can always turn that real estate into a income generating machine. Even if you live there, you could rent out one of your room. I mean, people do that all the time. You can rent out your driveway. I've seen that. You can rent out some extra space. So there's always additional potential income that you can generate with real estate versus a stock. So in this case, I would say the conclusion is that if you are buying with 20% down in today's high interest rate, mathematically, I agree with Graham, that yeah, you got to look at a number. If you look at a number by investing it in stocks, you probably get better return. But if you are investing with higher down payment and borrowing less money, then the result may not be so clear cut difference. And so it's quite interesting. Yes, the rent could go up, but so can property tax, insurance, and repair costs. So I agree with Graham Stephan's math in his video. However, in real life, there are risk benefits that are hard to quantify in each scenario, which will inevitably make things more complicated. First, the realistic growth are actually much more complicated than the math that you see. When both markets are bullish, the stock and the real estate, your growth rate will be different based on your investment schedules. In real estate, if you're buying a $1.5 million home, your asset will be 1.5 regardless of how much equity you have. 1.5 million is the base number you start with. In stock market, based on our previous example, your starting base number is only 300K. Then your base number will grow as you're making 7,000 monthly increment. So even though stock market may have higher return in general, your actual growth is not as high as you think. Especially when we know that the actual market performance each year is going to be different. And the gain from the stock investment is 100% taxable. Where in real estate, if you're buying a primary home, you have a 500,000 tax exemption. So it makes the actual result of comparison not so clear to us when facing so many variables. Secondly, market timing also plays a huge factor in this comparison. Take 2008, 2009, for instance. The stock market crashed 50%. And even though it is generally true that the market eventually recovers and achieves new high, and if you held on to it long enough, you would have still made great money by now. But what if you were getting ready to retire in 2008? You didn't have enough working years ahead of you to support yourself and make those losses back. This investment strategy would be devastating when you face crashes like that. And in fact, a lot of people did commit suicide because their 401k simply went to 101k. At the same time, though, even though Bay Area real estate market also dipped, it wasn't too bad. People that bought homes because they did their math, they could afford it, they were building equities, and they were just doing fine. And most of the foreclosures happened to the owners that didn't have equities, but instead they over leveraged and they invested difference into buying more homes without down payments. And there was a big multi-level marketing company called World Leadership Group at that time, or WLG. That was all they were preaching at the time. And of course, they ceased their business in 2008. So the point I was trying to make here is that market timing is an important consideration. Real estate is less volatile and offers better long-term resilience. Plus, there are emotional benefits of owning a home, knowing that you have a permanent place on earth and a peace of mind for your retirement life. And it's your home, you can do whatever you want. These benefits are hard to put a price on. Thirdly, most people just don't have the discipline or knowledge to invest the difference wisely. Take my above comparison. If you continue renting instead of buying that $1.5 million home here in the Bay Area, your monthly saving is $7,000 plus 300K down payment. But how many people actually have the discipline to invest the difference? Most people will end up spending the difference. With the help of credit card, it's real easy to take $500 out this month and $1,000 out next month for finer things in life. Successful investment requires discipline, sacrifice, and following a system, which most people just don't have. In this case, buying and owning a home is actually a great way to create a discipline and system in people's financial life, because now you absolutely cannot just spend all of your next paycheck on a new car or a fancy vacation. You'll be forced to set money aside for the home. Plus, you get tax benefits too. See, the worst thing that people could do is renting and spending. because with that, you end up with nothing. Therefore, generally speaking, I wouldn't suggest every average working Americans to keep renting and investing the difference because everybody's situation is different. If you truly cannot afford to buy a home, then don't do it. Find a way to improve your income or learn to invest other things. If you're truly financially well off, like some of these like internet gurus who claim to be renting a $30 million mansion and investing the rest into other things, that's fine as long as you know how to invest, whether that's a big commercial building, crypto, stocks, or business that you are bullish about. Now, Warren Buffett is not known to have a big real estate portfolio, but he's doing just fine. He's doing great, actually. So, my take on Graham Stephan's video is that he offers great information and insight on this topic, and I like his breakdown, and I agree with him, his math in his video. However, you are not a savvy investor or lack the discipline or resources to be a successful investor, buying a home is still one of the greatest things that you could do for your family as long as you could afford it. Also, different market has different numbers and nuances that you should take into consideration. Anyways, regarding to buying versus renting, what do you think? Do you believe that home ownership is the biggest scam like Grant Cardone would call it all the time? Or do you believe that home ownership is a beautiful thing like Dave Ramsey would say? Or should you just rent and invest the difference like Graham Stephan brought up in his video? Comment down below and let me know what you think. Anyway, that's it for today's video. Thank you for your time and I'll see you on the next one.